throughout the course of this evening, it is my hope and my prayer that we are actually able to accomplish a handful of things. Number one, a new understanding of what we are talking about. What does it mean to be a Muslim? Why are there so many myths that are so unfair to so many of our fellow Michiganians? It seems to me that the longer we are at this game, the worse we get at being inclusive of one another. And so I'm hoping that by the time we're done with the program 3 hours from now, that you will have learned something, that we'll perhaps even healed something. And if the worst thing we do is get you to question your own belief system, or to get you to understand that perhaps the way you've been thinking has been wrong for many, many years, then we have accomplished something. I do want to invite those of you that are listening that you're welcome to come in and see us. We're located at 1605 West Davidson Avenue at Woodrow Wilson. You can't miss it. It's right on the corner. And so feel free to come. So let's get us started. Joining me now, before we introduce everybody, is Dawood Walid. Dawood has been on the show a few times. He's the Executive Director of the Council on American-Islamic Relations, Michigan. And the last time I had him on the show, I said, you know what, there seems to be so much misunderstanding about Muslim and Islam, and maybe what we should do is a show that explores these issues. And so we actually are doing it, and here we are. And Dawood, thank you for your kindness and doing all the hard work. All I had to do was show up. So thank you for everything today.
Thank you very much, Tony. And really, on behalf of the Muslim community in Michigan, it's really an honor for us and a privilege that you have been so generous in opening up the airwaves to our community and to fellow Michiganians, so that we can talk about some of the issues that are pressing not just to the Muslim community but to the broader public in general.
Absolutely, and I think it's important. And you know, we have a small group gathered here, and it's a mixed group, which is good. I mean, that's a very good thing. What we're going to do over the course of the next 3 hours is explore lots of different dialogue. I think we'll put it that way. If you'll go ahead and get the microphone, we can get started. I would like, if you would, to very quickly introduce our panelists, and then there's somebody that wanted to speak before we got started here.
Thank you very much. Also here on the panel who will be commenting throughout the show is one of the foremost intellectuals in the metropolitan Detroit, not just the Muslim community, but in general. In my view, is Professor Said Khan, who's a lecturer at Near Eastern and Asian Studies at Wayne State University. He also teaches at the University of Detroit Mercy and Rochester College. Mr. Khan has lectured all across the world. He'll be going to Turkey, as a matter of fact, in a couple of weeks and lecture. He is a consultant for BBC. He's been on National Public Radio, C-SPAN, and a number of other media outlets. Also with us on the panel is Ms. Isra Moussaoui. She is right now a graduate student. She's also the administrator of one of the largest youth movements in the United States of America for Muslims, the Young Muslim Association, which I was actually privileged to see this organization start. And this Young Muslim Association is housed at the largest mosque in these United States of America, the Islamic Center of America in Dearborn, Michigan. Also, Ms. Moussaoui did not have this in her bio, but her last name, Moussaoui, means that she is a descendant of the seventh Imam and the Jafari Shia school of thought, which means that she is a direct blood descendant of the last prophet of Islam, Muhammad. Now I'd like to have for a few comments and a prayer the Imam of the Muslim Center in Detroit, one of our long community leaders, Imam Abdullah Bey El-Amin.
Thank you, brother. With God's name, the merciful benefactor, the merciful redeemer, may the peace and the blessings be upon us all here at the mosque and in the general listening audience. On behalf of our Muslim Center Detroit, it gives me great pleasure to welcome Brother Tony Trupiano, CAIR Michigan, and this fine panel of responders. When you hear the word Muslim or Islam or Allah, it conjures up as many opinions as there are people hearing it. And we'll probably hear just as many points of view here tonight. So we thank Brother Tony for broadcasting his program from our mosque, and we pray the words spoken here will enlighten all that hear them. So once again, welcome to all of my brothers and sisters of all faiths, Jewish, Christian, Muslim, Buddhist, and all other people of good faith. Peace be upon you. Assalamu alaikum. Let us begin.
All right, thank you very much. That was beautiful. You know, Dawood, I think that this may seem, for those of deep Muslim faith, almost an insult to start off with such basic understanding. But I think that we need to provide a foundation. You know, something that was just said really resonated with me. The word Muslim evokes so many different emotions in people, both negative and positive. You shared with me right before the show started today an email that you randomly got from a woman that just because you are a Muslim, she felt a need to attack that. That is unfortunately not an uncommon response. So let us define, and certainly utilize your panel in any way you would like, but let us define what are the beliefs of Muslims?
Well, there's some very core beliefs that Muslims believe all throughout the world, irrespective of theological.
I ask you to speak up a little bit.
Yeah, there are some very basic beliefs that all Muslims believe, irrespective of geography or theological school of thought. The most important belief in Islam is the belief in one God, that there is one God who is indivisible, who's absolute and eternal, the creator of everything in the heavens and the earth and everything in between. It is the same God that Jews and Christians believe in from our theological perspective, that created the first two human beings of being Adam and Eve. And, you know, that is the most important belief. I mean, we have other rituals that are part of the Islamic faith, such as prayer and fasting. We have the obligation of giving charity. We Muslims believe that there is a life after this, that this is just a temporal reality, and that we're going to die and be resurrected and all face God for our good deeds and bad deeds. But to me, as a Muslim, and how I understand the faith of Islam, is really summed up into two basic things as far as I'm concerned. One is worship and adoration of God. Two is service to his creation and primarily to humanity. This, to me, sums up what it is to be a Muslim. It's ibadah, or worship to God, and love and adoration for this creator, and as well service to humanity.
All right, Professor, let me turn to you. That doesn't sound any different than Christianity from where I'm sitting.
No, and it shouldn't. One of the accusations that's made against Islam and against Muslims as a kind of an indictment is that Islam is unoriginal, and in that sense, guilty as charged. Islam has never professed to be an original religion. It is in fact a continuation of the monotheistic faith, which encompasses what we call the Abrahamic faiths, including Christianity and before that Judaism. Within that sphere, the Old Testament and the New Testament in spirit are not only accepted, but they're revered in Islam. The culmination of the scripture, which started with Adam, went all the way up through Noah, Moses, Abraham, Jacob, Ishmael, Isaac, John the Baptist, Jesus, David, Solomon, all of the names which would be familiar to so many who read their Bible are part of the Islamic narrative. The culmination of all this in Islam is in the Quran, which Muslims revere to be the final word, the final inerrant word of God, and along with that, the Prophet Muhammad and his teachings and his sayings. So in that sense, the scripture itself, the teachings, the code, the ethics, none of these things should appear to be foreign or alien, but I think those two terms, in fact, are at the very crux of what is part of the problem that is affecting Muslims in this country, is that it is seen as a foreign, it is seen as an alien religion. And Muslims are seen as foreign and alien, despite the fact that Muslims cover every single race, every single ethnicity, every single culture, every single creed, and they're all represented here in the United States. It is not just simply what is oftentimes typecast as an Arab religion. In fact, all Arabs aren't Muslim, and all Muslims aren't Arab. We find here in Detroit really one of the epicenters of the African American Muslim experience. We have in the Detroit area representation of just about every type of Muslim that one could imagine, denomination-wise as well as ethnically. The level of conversion to Islam among Caucasian Americans, among Hispanic Americans, shows that in fact Islam is the mosaic and very much a microcosm of America itself.
Well, you know, I find it absolutely fascinating as I'm listening to you speak, as I'm thinking about the challenges that we've had every time something is done in the name of Islam, something negative is done in the name of Islam, it immediately it must create, I don't know, a terrible, frustrating sense of why this, why again, why us, why now, and how can it not?
On a personal level, it does. On an academic level, and being a historian, I see this as a continuation. If Muslims are accused of being unoriginal, then I'm afraid that haters in America are similarly unoriginal. We find that if one takes a look at American history, we've had several dark episodes when it comes to certain communities, certain groups being targeted, not for necessarily even what they believe, but what they look like. And so when we see that, there's always the frustration of saying, how could we not as a people have learned from the past? How could we not have learned from our very recent past of the treatment or the mistreatment of certain groups? And it seems as though this is becoming a process in America that groups, for whatever reason, have to go through this, and I'll borrow from another tradition, a baptism by fire.
Welcome back. It is 22 minutes after 8 o'clock. I am live from the Muslim Center here in Detroit. We have an esteemed panel of guests. Again, if you're just joining us, by the way, I do want to welcome callers, 888-552-3595. I warn you, though, that we're quick with the button. But I do want to welcome callers. If you've got questions, if you're confused, if there's something that you want us to get to, then feel free to give us a call. We'd be happy to take that. I do want to talk about the youth movement, if we can, for a moment. Certainly, there has to be almost a confusing sense of right and wrong at this point. When you see adults, I mean, we're all taught to respect adults, right?
Absolutely.
And then all of a sudden, adults are saying, yeah, but these are bad people. This is a bad religion. How does that affect the youth?
I mean, definitely for the most of us, we're all just regular kids. I'm a full-time graduate student at Wayne State University in the nutrition department. I've been doing research in molecular biology, so when we go to school, we have friends that are from the Christian faith, the Jewish faith, and other faiths. So it definitely affects us in a sense where we're in the real world. We're mingling with other students, we're mingling with other people, whether we're working, we're at school. My neighbor's Italian, so it affects us in a sense where we're lucky that we live in a city where there's a lot of different cultures, a lot of different races and religions. But when we go outside, for me, because I wear the hijab and I wear the scarf on my head, this morning actually I was driving from Ann Arbor to Detroit, and this random Caucasian female yelled out, "You B word," just randomly as I was on a red light. So, I mean, it affects us, but you got to pick and choose your battles. So with people like that, I brush it off. But with people who approach me, one of my colleagues, he's Italian-Canadian, and we constantly talk about different, the different aspects between Christianity and Islam, and they get really amazed and they get really surprised when we tell them how much we respect Jesus and how we have a whole chapter in the Quran dedicated to Virgin Mary, and she's one of the women in heaven. So I guess it depends if you have someone who's open-minded, which is not too hard to find in the youth because, you know, we're more of an open-minded generation. It's a great thing, you know, we get to talk about different things and go back and forth. But then you're also going to have people who are ignorant and, you know, they just shout out random verbal words and you just got to brush it off.
No, that's not always as easily said done. Professor, did you disagree with something that was said there?
No. Well, I mean, the fact that she said that the youngest generation is the most tolerant, I mean, I beg to differ. I think there's tolerance in every generation. One of the things that I am privy to, though, is seeing the young people in my classes, and I see the impact of those that have come of age in the so-called post-9/11 world. And among Muslim students, there is only one reality that they know, and that is a world since these dastardly deeds 12 years ago, and how they then have to negotiate that. And for many of them, they ask the very correct question, well, we didn't do this, so why are we being blamed for this? And this seems to be the overarching anxiety that they have when they are unfortunately approached with incidents like being yelled at or having someone swear at you, or somebody look at you in a peculiar way or mistreat you. On the other hand, though, college campuses and other social settings are wonderful opportunities for people to make connections. And by and large, those that have an interaction with Muslims, whether they are youth, whether they are older or otherwise, they come out of it with a positive experience and with a positive perception about Muslims. So this notion of engagement is absolutely critical when it comes to understanding Islam and when it comes to understanding Muslims, and not in some kind of way that everybody brings out their holy books and has a comparison, or that there's some kind of a debate. Just coming together on recognizing that there is a common culture, that there is a common humanity. I think that's one of the saddest things that's happened over the last 12 years in particular, is that there has been this dehumanization of Muslims, that for some reason that they are considered not just alien from the standpoint of religion, not just alien from the standpoint of a nationality, but they're considered alien from the standpoint of humanity.
Well, we're going to talk about Islamophobia in the next hour in greater detail. Let me just share my personal experience. I was born and raised Catholic. As I became more aware of Catholicism and its history, I was disgusted by it, frankly. And then my own personal experience, where I went to a Catholic school for a period of time, and the way the parish priest dealt with young students when he carried a cane, as he would hit them on the head with this cane. And think about this for a minute, folks. If that's your foundation for religion, can you embrace that? Because I couldn't. But the problem was, I belonged to an Italian-American family, and everything was holy water at everybody's house, and everybody's crossing themselves all the time. And that's what I know, but I'm thinking it's wrong. And I don't think I'm wrong by thinking this is wrong. And, you know, my son happens to be my producer. We did not raise him as Catholic. We raised him as a Christian. We raised him to respect God. We say prayer before meal. Does that make me odd? Does that make me different? Does that make me an alien? Because I don't feel comfortable in that Catholic faith, and I haven't for a very long time. I'm 52 years old. I haven't practiced Catholicism. And Dad, if you're listening, God bless you, because he still goes to church every week. It's just not where I belong.
And I think that's one of the things, Tony, that once upon a time, the line of demarcation about who was a good Muslim and who was a bad Muslim was entirely based on dress, or whether someone had a beard. These were the symbols of piety. These were the symbols of observance. And there was some correlation made in somebody's head that the more religious you look, the more dangerous you are. And I don't know if that's a function of secularism in society, or if that was directed just solely toward Muslims, particularly after 9/11. But clearly what we find is that there's an entire spectrum. In the United States, there's somewhere between 2.375 and 8 million Muslims, somewhere between 0.6 and 3% of the population. Worldwide, there's 1.6 to 1.7 billion Muslims. The very idea that any two Muslims look alike, think alike, act alike, believe alike is just a fallacy. And this idea about whether they have doubt, whether they question their faith, they most certainly do.
Welcome back. It is 35 minutes after 8 o'clock. We are live from the Muslim Center on West Davidson in Detroit. We have an esteemed panel here. We're discussing Islam, Muslims. Throughout the course of the evening, we're going to talk about other issues like Islamophobia. We're going to talk about foreign policy. We're going to talk about issues that we don't often get to talk about. Dawood Walid, let me again turn to you. And first of all, and we're going to take some comments from the audience here for in just a minute. But the dialogue so far, is this what you were hoping we would be able to do?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I think that the comments that have been said here regarding general faith issues and opening up even more into like some nuance, exactly what I wanted. Besides what's been said, I think that it's also very important for the listening audience to know that our faith values as Muslims is something very important in our faith that is the creed of all Muslims, and that we are commanded by God to enjoin what is good in society and to try to prevent that which is antisocial and breeds injustice. So it is very much a part of our faith and our community values that we are to stand up for the rights of the poor, and not just to give them a handout, but to empower them so that they're not in a condition to ask for handouts. We're for racial equality and against racial injustice. We are a community that's for the security and safety of all Americans and all human beings, no matter where they're at. We don't believe that anyone should be attacked or be a victim of a hate crime just because of their ethnicity, gender, or even gender orientation. And so this is a part of our core values as Muslims, and you know, our faith has to manifest itself into action. And much of the what people call American values, I say that Islamic values encapsulate the best of what people consider American values.
You know, it's interesting. One of the things that, folks, I'm taking away from this conversation so far is that if we were to put 100 people in this room, and let's say they were all Muslim, how would you identify them? Now, how would the average person on the street identify them? You see, it would be by the way they're dressed or the color of their skin, which would, of course, be a false perception. But it is, unfortunately, the way that we have been conditioned in this country. And it's a shame that we have, of course, an amazing, ugly history of hating just because of the color of somebody's skin, or the kind of dress they have on, or what they wear, or what kind of hat they have on. And I don't know that tonight will solve any big problems, but what I do hope tonight does do is it helps others to understand, deeply understand, the hurt that they cause by profiling for no reason. We had somebody that wanted to make a comment. Is that you over there? Somebody wanted to make a comment? Was there someone? No? Okay, that's fine. Did you want to make a comment? Okay. Folks, don't be shy. If you want to make a comment, just stand up, come up here. We'll get you a microphone and you can talk.
Also, one thing, Tony, while one of our community leaders is coming up to the microphone, and you talked about how you can't really look at a person until they're a Muslim. Well, in this area, and just as in the world, the Muslim community is so diverse. We have a very large percentage of Muslims from the Balkans, like from Albania, from Bosnia, who reside here. We have a growing population of Muslims who are West African immigrants from various countries, from Senegal to Mali to Nigeria. My sheikh, my teacher, Sheikh Ali, Suleiman Ali, is in the audience right here. He's an immigrant from Ghana. We have, many people think of as Arab and Muslim as synonymous, which the Arab American community is a very important part of the Muslim community, but the diversity from South Asians to people from Malaysia. I was at a rally called Chill, Don't Kill on Saturday, where the Muslim community was speaking out against gun violence in Detroit. There was a family there from Uzbekistan, and they're Muslims. So we really have a very rich and diverse community, and you really can't look at someone's skin color or their dress and really tell whether they're a Muslim or not.
By the way, you're a darn good-looking guy. Just thought I'd say that. If you would, tell us your name and go ahead and whatever's on your mind.
My name is Victor Ghalib Beg. I want to thank you, Tony, for this wonderful opportunity. And I want to greet your audience with Salaam Alaikum, peace be upon you. And there is one of my Jewish friends out there, Shalom Alaikum, which is the same as Salaam Alaikum. I hope this is one of the good things you could do on a beautiful summer afternoon. So come together and hear the dialogue here. The dialogue is something that I really like to talk about. Dawood mentioned to me that I may speak on interfaith because I've been very much involved with the interfaith dialogue, I would say for at least 30 years. I am one of the oldest members of the Interfaith Roundtable, Michigan Roundtable, which is actually no longer an interfaith roundtable. They focus more on gender, race issues. However, after 9/11, we created a group called Interfaith Partners, which is now Interfaith Leadership Council. And I would encourage the listeners to Google Interfaith Leadership Council and visit our website, and hopefully you register, because some of the things we're doing are just incredible. I personally don't like the word interfaith. Interfaith sounds like we're trying to mix religions here and come up with something new. However, the idea is to get to know each other as members of the pluralistic society that we live in. And, you know, the Abrahamic trilogue created the golden age. Not many people know. So it's so important that, especially in this country, we do things that really hopefully contributes to a more peaceful world and a better America. Interfaith work that we're engaged in is really a lot of civic engagement. And we have a literacy program. We have energy efficiency program. If you go to our website, Interfaith Leadership Council, you will see that. And also, you are a Catholic, and we have for over 12 years, we're engaged with the Catholic Church, Muslims and Catholics in public square. And with the Jewish community, we have done so many events. One of them was right here. We did an interfaith health screening where we brought the Jewish and Muslim doctors together here at the Muslim Center and serving the surrounding community, which happens to be Christian. And a similar thing we do around Christmas time. On Christmas Day, the Muslims and Jews coming together to do service project. So this way you give the Christians the day off so they can do their celebration while, you know, the two faiths are working to replace them at the soup kitchens and so on. So that's a couple of things I wanted to talk about. And one last thing, you know, when I ran for the school board, I partnered with the Jewish candidate. And I was elected on the Bloomfield Hills Board of Education, and both of us are poles apart. I'm a Muslim activist, and she's a Jewish activist. However, we came together for the good of our kids. So, you know, there's so many things good things that come out through our interfaith interactions. And hopefully that will be an example to the rest of the world, hopefully especially in the Middle East.
Absolutely. That was beautifully said. Thank you. That was very, very beautifully said. I often wonder, and certainly I find it fascinating at so many different levels that although we have a great deal in common, we never seem to celebrate that. And I don't know why that is. I understand your concern with the word interfaith. Maybe interhuman is a better, but we could find, I think, a stronger way to do that. But I think that ultimately, and I've always had this feeling, I think that one of the reasons racism exists is because we don't worship together. We go back to our own communities and we worship privately. And until we learn how to worship as one, I don't believe we'll ever be able to fully heal. So I'm going to throw that out there. Anybody that wants to comment on that, if you think I'm crazy, you can tell me that too.
One last thing I wanted to say, Tony, because this is very important. You remember the Terry Jones came into our town.
Oh, yes.
Okay, we call him TJ because he was the instrument that brought us together. And that happened to be the Holy Week, and the Archbishop came to the Islamic Center in solidarity. We were not there to line up against Terry Jones. We were there to show we are one community and we stand up against hate and bigotry.
Okay, thank you. Anthony, if you would put the microphone back there and go ahead, what's on your mind?
I think you had a very key point with saying that I think we're just used to going back to our own, house of worship, whether it be at mosque, synagogue, or a church, and doing our own thing with our own father or priest or sheikh or imam. And something that Hajj Victor said, and I was on the planning committee for when Terry Jones came on Good Friday back in 2011. And it brought us together. We prayed together. We had people from the Christian community, the Jewish community. We had a few people who were agnostic. I remember I met someone who was actually atheist, but they were just, very respectful. Like, we agreed to disagree, of God's existence. But it definitely brought us together, and it brought us closer together, and I think it's very important for us to be coming together.
Yeah, absolutely. We have to take another quick break, so let's hold that thought. Now I want to come back to this topic because I think everybody has something to say on it. So we'll do that. This is Night Shift on 1130 AM WDFN. I am Tony Trupiano. I want to thank all of you that are here this evening. Yep, it's time to heal. Maybe that we'll actually do a little of that before we get out of here. Let's take the break and we'll be right back. All right, welcome back. Just about 10 minutes before the top of the hour. I do want to set up the next hour. They will be in prayer. Some of our folks will be in prayer, so I'll be holding up the fort while they are in prayer, and there's no way around it. I was actually going to go into prayer, but I can't do that and be here at the same time. Let's pick it up from. We've got a Twitter question that we'll get to, and then we had a caller with a question. We'll get to that a little bit later. But we were talking about not celebrating together, not being, congregating. I think that there's something totally beautiful about sharing the religious experience that if you don't do it, you can't define it, if that makes sense to you folks.
Yeah, just one last note, and then I'll, pass it to another brothers. The prophet said himself, if you are not my brother in faith, you're my brother in humanity. And I think that's a very powerful statement.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, I think it's very beautiful, and it says a lot, and that really we should come together and, as one. So.
If I can, I guess it might sound like doing a little bragging on the Muslim community, but I can't help myself, Tony. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. famously said that church hour was the most segregated hour in America. If someone comes to this mosque on Friday, during the Friday prayer time at 1 o'clock, you'll see people for African-American descent whose families have been here for centuries. You'll see Gambians here, Senegalese, Pakistanis, you'll see Iraqis. They're all praying right here in this one mosque. And basically, when you go to most of our mosques, from Canton to West Bloomfield, to the Wayne State University Mosque, to West Bloomfield, I give the sermons at Islamic centers across the city and state every Friday, and I'm speaking to Arabs, I'm speaking to Bosnians, I'm speaking to people from Mali, all over, Malaysia. So this is something that I believe that if people in Michigan want to see how it really looks to have inter-ethnic prayer and people who are praying together from different socioeconomic backgrounds, I invite anyone to come to any Islamic center on Friday and they can see that living.
Which was going to be my question. I've never been to an Islamic center at prayer time. If I show up, of course I'll be welcome, but it would be uncomfortable. Let's just be honest. I wouldn't know what you were doing. I wouldn't know how to follow. Is there somebody there that's going to say, you need to kneel now, you need to stand? I just don't know.
Well, in the case of those who come to an Islamic center to view prayer, clearly there's no barrier, there's no obstacle to them